Good morning, everyone. Look out, we have Sean Murray back in the news, or at least talking to Games Radar, about how to talk to the public when you've got a really bad launch. And he's referring to Fallout 76 and Anthem. Now, the scale of Sean's project was rather large for an indie title. After all, it was only kickstarted. And he overpromised and underdelivered on a gargantuan way. Like the popularity of No Man's Sky while it was going through development went nuts. He was on TV, he was on The Night Show, he was on all these other interviews and just promising the moon. And everyone's like, holy crap, is this really going to happen? And anyone with any basic sensibility would say, probably not. And you might get some things, but obviously not everything was delivered. So from his perspective, I guess you can add some real world experience to what you should do after a project goes bad. The problem is we're talking about an indie studio compared to two big giant studios with two big giant companies behind them. So EA for Anthem and ZeniMax for Bethesda, or Fallout 76. So let's see what he has to say here. We went about 2 years without talking to press at all. Okay, probably not the best idea, but why was that? And we went about 3 months without saying anything to the community either. Now, you have to understand that No Man's Sky was a complete joke. I don't know how much of a bigger joke than Anthem, because he was promising the moon, so that just fueled it. Anthem wasn't promising the moon. It was just sort of seeing, like, from the rumors that we heard, we were expecting something like the moon, at least from what Casey Hudson was saying before he left the company. This is going to revolutionize gaming. You're like, yeah, probably not. So it ended up just, the original plan for Anthem was just a survival multiplayer game, which is fine, but it wouldn't have revolutionized anything anyway if he had his way. That was really hard. I sat down so many times and wrote the perfect blog post that was going to explain everything about the game's development. Wow, that sounds kind of sad. And the roadmap going ahead. But I could see that it didn't hold credibility with regards to where we're at. That's kind of important. Credibility is very important, because once you promise the moon, you have to deliver eventually, and they did so piecemeal. So they I don't know if they delivered the entire moon. I don't think so. I think they got to maybe a small comet or a small asteroid in terms of scale. But yeah, he did eventually sit down for 2-3 years and churn out content, which is good. The problem is you still have to communicate that. So all he had to do was click publish. That's all he had to do. And this idea of going 2 years without talking to the press is just bad. You have to own up your mistakes, or you have to own up your successes. Whatever happens, you have to communicate. What I would have done, and this is just my opinion, at least for Anthem, is have your community manager communicate twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And in the morning, you say, this is what we're going to do. And in the evening, when they're done work, they say, this is what we accomplished. That's the bare minimum I would do. And then the community manager throughout the day would answer all the questions and go on Reddit and all the other things. That would be the bare minimum for the community manager's job. It doesn't account for all the other people on Twitter. If there's a embargo on, they don't talk to anyone because they're too busy, that's great. I mean, whatever the policies are. Because we're talking about a huge company like Bioware, a multi-million-dollar company behind $1 billion publisher, EA. Same idea with Fallout 76. And I don't think this really applies, or can be applied to that regard. Because obviously Murray or Sean is like a small team. There's not too many people to go around, so everyone has to have their nose to the grindstone for years and years. And with a huge company with community managers and people communicating on Reddit and in Discord or wherever, it's like, yeah, you have to keep communicating. You have to keep getting feedback. And Anthem is doing that in a small capacity, but it's doing it too slowly for whatever dumb reason. No Man's Sky was the first of many games in recent years to hit the ground stumbling. 76, Sea of Thieves, Anthem has struggled and maintained a positive reputation following troubled release periods. With the benefit of hindsight, Murray has some advice. There have been a number of games that have since come out, had a polarizing launch, and that explosive mix of loads of people playing it, but also problems. And I can see EA, Microsoft, or Bethesda try to placate players by just talking to them, but for right or wrong, it just really doesn't work. I don't think the idea is placating your audience. I think communication still has to go on, whether it's good or bad, whether the end result is bad. You have to communicate. It would just be even a standard email saying, hey, we're busy, we can't get back to you, da da da. Just to let people know they're listening. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but at least there's someone saying, hey, we're listening, I can't communicate right now, it's all confidential, whatever. At least communicate. So I still don't agree with his ideas of not talking to the press. I mean, just own it, man. Just own what you said. Say, you know what, we screwed up. I promised the moon couldn't deliver. We're sorry, but we're working on it right now. You have to keep PR going. You see all this time when a big publisher will talk to the community and try to solve the problem and then get embroiled, taking up more and more of its headspace. Again, you can pay someone, a big company can pay a community manager, can pay a PR firm or whomever, even HR, get their HR guys to get off their asses and do something. Say, hey, we're working on the problem, we're listening. And that could backfire and say, yeah, we're listening, but we don't actually solve the problem. Then that would be a waste of time and money for everyone involved. Why else would you have people to do the job of listening and communicating if you're not actually solving the problem? I mean, that would be just quit your project, stop doing it. Interestingly, Anthem's community has been getting increasingly aggravated. Is there anything left of Anthem's community? I have no idea. I haven't checked the Reddit in months. With Bioware's lack of communication of the game's future. So basically, Bioware's doing what Sean is recommending. Don't communicate. Or don't communicate much. But Murray's world-weary comments perhaps suggest this is for the best. Yeah, no. Allowing the studio to get on with the hard work. Again, not everyone at the studio is a developer churning away code and testing. There are HR people. There are PR people. There are people in the community, on the forums, or wherever, that can say, hey, we're still busy. Sorry, we can't do it. That would get tired after a while, so there has to be some actual feedback. That's why I recommend having like an assistant to the project managers who just say, okay, this is what this team did today, and this is what we finished off, or we're going to be finishing off for tomorrow. Like, just keep everything updated twice a day, beginning and after work. Talking about features when a game's already out isn't that credible or interesting. It is when you're playing the game and you reported a feature or bug and it gets fixed. That's you have to do that. I mean, why else would the person be playing care when they like the game, even though it's not delivering, and they want to see it fixed? That's the point. Your actions are so much more important than what you say. Exactly. But you have to communicate what you're doing in your actions every day, or else there's no one's like, what's going on? Would you? I'd rather they just keep the video camera live feed in BioWare Studios, people walking around having lunch or whatever. It's like, okay, well, it's better than nothing, but it's not going to be very helpful. So I actually do not agree with if you can call Sean Murray's experience helpful. It doesn't seem practical. It doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem friendly. Sean Murray, all he had to do is come out and say, hey, you know what? Every week, this is my report. This is what's going on. I'm sure he did some of that, but months? That's kind of strange. It should be a weekly thing in that case because it's a small studio, but you should be able to take an hour out of your off time when you're on the weekends or whatever and just say, hey, you know what? This week we did this, we did that, we're expecting this. That would have been something that, for at least for Sean Murray's scale. For Bioware, it should be done daily. Same with Fallout 76. People love the Fallout franchise. It's no excuse not to communicate. So I have to say no to Sean Murray, but Anthem is the punching boy of the year. So yeah, who knows what can solve Anthem's problems? Anyway, have a great morning, guys.